In this video, I'm going to show you how to build an automation using N8N to do advanced content research. So what I find when it comes to AI and building out automations, most people don't do it properly and they end up with pretty lame, vague results. So in this video, I'm going to take you through an advanced automation. And what we're going to do is use tools like Airtable. N8N is going to run the automation. But here's where it gets really interesting. We're going to get AI to prompt AI in a multi-step process of research that iterates. And we're going to call on tools like DataforSEO to get a whole bunch of keyword data. Now, this isn't just for SEO, though. DataforSEO is a useful tool for a whole lot of things, not just content for search engines. And you'll see when we build this, you can adapt this automation for social media content, YouTube content. It really doesn't matter what the content is. What I'm going to teach you is to do advanced, in-depth research on a topic for anything that even if you don't know anything about it. And then we're going to call on multiple AIs, ChatGPT, Perplexity, and they're going to talk to each other and build up the research for us. And at the end of it, within less than a minute, you're going to have a detailed research document that you can then pass on to a writer. And in which case, when we're doing automations, we just pass that on to our writing automation, which I've shown you how to do in other videos. So that's what we're going to achieve in this video. So let's jump in. Okay, so one of the biggest mistakes that I see content creators making when they're using AI is they don't do proper research and actually leverage the power of multi-step research when coming up with content. So whether the content's a blog post, social media, it doesn't really matter, a YouTube script. The key is if you want to stand out, you actually need quality. So you can't just go to an AI tool like Claude or ChatGPT and get it to do research. It doesn't work like that if you want to stand out from the crowd. So in this automation, I'm going to take you through it and show you an example of it in full in just a second. But what it's going to do is it's going to do a multi-stepped approach where it actually goes out to Google and does a live search result and scrapes pages. It uses a service called DataforSEO to get different keywords that people type from the DataforSEO service. It also then summarizes all of this for us using ChatGPT. And then over here, we do another search and scrape actual web page URLs and get all the content off of those URLs using this service here. We feed that back into ChatGPT and get that to summarize that. Then we use a tool called Perplexity, and we do a live Perplexity search, which goes out and does deep research for us. This is all on the same topic, but we're getting the content from different places in different ways. Once the Perplexity search is done, it's then summarized, and we get a final output that is a deep research content piece that we can pass then to another AI automation that will write it, depending if it's a blog post or social media, whatever you're actually trying to achieve. It's the same structure that you would go through to get that deep, proper research done. So let me show you this in action so you can see what it's actually doing, how quick this can be. So if I click test here, all I need to do is once I have Airtable set up, which is where we have the database of ideas, I simply just choose an idea. Now you put any content ideas in this column you want, and you don't need to know anything about them. I certainly don't know anything about how to reduce bloating during menopause, that's for sure. So I'm going to use that as an example. All I have to do here is go get research. And the AI is going to do quality deep research on this for me and give me a report at the end that then I can then pass on to another AI. So you can see it started already. The first request has gone out to a service called DataforSEO, and it's doing a live Google search and it's scraping a lot of content there. And then it's organizing that content for us using AI here, and then it's spitting it out into a format that we can then save later in the automation. These three HTTP requests are going to the same service of DataforSEO, but they're different endpoints, and they get us different types of keywords that people type in. So we can save all that data and feed it into the AI at the end of this automation to help it come up with a detailed summary of the content. So this is where we use AI to summarize everything that's gone into it so far, and it gives us a search intent and tells us the type of content people are looking for based on all of the research it's just received. If we move further along, we now do a live scrape of real data, real websites, and we take all of their content and we neatly package it up and pass this into an AI and then pass that along. And then the next step is using another AI service called Perplexity, which does deep research, and it's automatically prompted, and it goes out using this HTTP request. So this AI model is prompting this one automatically based on all of the research that's come into this already. So it's dovetailing from one AI to another AI, and then it's all being summarized for us. So this is how you do multi-step research, which actually gets you high quality research. And then it's all packaged up at the end into one summary document that would then get passed on to another AI to then do the writing section. But I'm not going to go into the actual content creation because I've done that in other videos. So watch my previous videos where I show you how to do the writing piece. But there you can see it's finished. So what would come out at the end of this is something like this, where it's got, let's say this was a blog post. It gives the writer, the AI writer, a very detailed structure of all the sections it needs to cover in order to address this main topic properly. So obviously this topic was about menopause and menopause and bloating. So it breaks down all of the categories that you'd need to cover to do this topic well. So then it breaks out each section. It tells the writer what to do, what to address, what word count, and it gives it references from actual scientific articles that it found online. So you can see it breaks down each section and tells the writer what to do exactly. So then you pass that on to an AI writer. Now you can get a lot more complex than this, but what you want to do once you've got an outline like this is when you pass this on to a writing automation, it will grab these details and it will go into the company database like a Pinecone database and retrieve information to write, or it will go out and do specific research for this section only in its own writing automation. So this way you get a very detailed plan on how to cover a topic that you've got no idea about, but is actually really high quality, deep research. So you can adapt this to whatever you need, but what I'll show you how to do is put it together and then you can use it for your own purposes. So the first thing that we need to do is go to Airtable and create the simple database. So get an account at Airtable. Once you've got an account set up, you just go and create the name of the master table. I've just called it Research Master. And then you create a table inside of that. I've called it Content Ideas. Once you've got that set up, you just need two simple columns, and then we'll go to the Automations tab and connect Airtable to N8N. So all you have to do here is just create this column, call it Questions, or you can call it whatever you like, really, and then put it as a single line of text. And this is where all your content ideas that you need research done will sit. Then the only other field you need here is a status field. So you choose a single select, and in here, just create one category called Get Research. That's all you need to do, and then your content ideas will all just sit in here, and then when you want to get the deep research, you just click Get Research. It's really that straightforward. One other step you need to do is go to the Automations tab up here, and then we need to create an automation to connect Airtable to N8N, which is going to run this automation. So in order to do that, you go to the bottom left-hand corner and click Create Automation. And here you go when a record matches a condition. And in the configuration on the right, choose the table which you just set up called Content Ideas. And then the condition to trigger this automation is when status, which is the other column, is Get Research, which is the other column we set up. Then the next thing you need to do is run a script. So in the Actions field, put Run a Script. And then in here, you click Edit Code. And you just want to put this code here, which I'll put underneath the video for you to copy, right in this box like that. You're going to need to change out the webhook URL. Don't use that webhook, or it won't work. But paste the code I give you under the video. On the left-hand side in the input variables here, put name record ID, and that's a capital I for ID. And then in the value, click this plus button here, and then choose Airtable record ID like that. I've got that in there twice now, so I'm going to get that out. And that's all you need to do here. And then I'll click Finish, and then you just need to make sure it's turned on. So all you need to do to connect this to N8N is we need to go to N8N and set the webhook up. Once you've got your webhook, you come back here, and where I had this set up before, you replace that URL with your webhook. So we'll go and do that now, and then this is ready to go. So over at N8N, this is the automation from start to finish. So let's go back to the beginning and just work our way through this. So the first thing you need to do is create a webhook. Okay, so you go to the plus symbol over on the right and you just go webhook like that. Get a webhook. Once you've done that, open it up and copy that URL in there. And that's what you put back in an Airtable. Once you've done that, the next module you need here at N8N is an Airtable module. So any module you need to add, if you're not familiar with N8N, just go to the right-hand side, click the module, and then get the correct module. This particular Airtable module is called Get a Record. So you click Get a Record. Now, in order for this module here to connect to your Airtable account, we need to build a bridge back. So we just did a webhook, which enabled us to send information from Airtable to N8N. Now we've got to communicate back. We need to create an API connection. So in order to keep this video not too long, I just encourage you to go and read the documents here. If you look at N8N in the docs right there, they'll explain exactly what you need to do. And it takes you through how to connect it, what you need to do. If you need help with this sort of stuff here, literally just copy the entire thing and then just paste it into ChatGPT and ask ChatGPT to help you connect it by reading these documents. But basically, all you need to do over at Airtable is you need to end up at here, which is the auth integration. So you go to the Airtable developer tab here, which is the building hub, get to this page here, and then you go to the OAuth integrations, and this is where you want to be. So I'm just going to blur stuff out here for privacy, but you get your client ID from here, you name the connection, and then you click generate client secret here. These are the things you need: generate client secret and ID. And then all you need to do once you've done that is you need to paste the OAuth redirect URL here that N8N gives you in there. And then in the records, just put a checkbox on all the scopes and then click that connect button down the bottom and then just click save and then it will connect. And then basically you now have an integration from N8N back to Airtable. So if I go back, once you've done that connection and you've connected it up, when you get to your Airtable module in N8N, from the credentials drop down here, you have to go to this pencils icon here and fill in your details. So you have to put in your API details in here. So this is where you put your client ID and the client secret in there. So once you've connected all that up, then you can pull the records that you need here. So what we're going to do is the operation's a get record, and then the base is just the name of that Airtable base that you created. And then the table is the name of the table. So once you've connected correctly, there'll be a drop down and you'll be able to select those. That's what's happening when you actually get those credentials. So what you need to do there is in the record ID field, you set that to expression. And then over on the right-hand side, if I just flick this back to schema, once this webhook fires, if you look down below it, there's a record ID that gets sent through from Airtable. That's what we want to drag and drop in there. Okay, so if you've never done anything like this before, all that's happening is when you fire that automation here back at Airtable, because we set up this automation to fire, and the trigger that we set up was when that's set to get research. As soon as we do that, it's going to fire a record for this row, which is, you can't see it here, but there's a record in the code. It's going to fire it over to N8N for us in this webhook. So this webhook picks the information up and it's that record ID we want to grab. Once we've got that in there, we can test that step. If I go test step there, you can see that it's bringing in this row, how to reduce bloating during menopause. See, it brings in the question. So now I have my question that I want the research done on. So the next step we can do now is we want to do an HTTP module here. So if I go HTTP, whoops, just step back one there, request module. This is a Data4SEO module. So you need an account at Data4SEO. Now, this is not expensive. You can just pay as you go. So Data4SEO here is a service that you can sign up for and put like $5 credit on. And then they've got a whole bunch of different requests that you can send to them. So they're a massive, massive database of all sorts of keyword research from Google and YouTube. A lot of the massive keyword tools that people pay for use Data4SEO's service to get their data. So it's like wholesale going to the source of all the data. So you can actually bypass all these big keyword tools like SEMrush and stuff like that. A lot of these are just plugging into Data4SEO. So you don't have to pay for those tools now. You can just bypass them and do your own requests using N8N, which is amazing because you can do all sorts of different requests in here. If you go to their playground tab, which I'm in here now, you can play around with all the different data that you can pull here, and you can build incredible automations just from this one tool. So what we're doing in here is you need to get your API access. So again, go through the API access and get the credentials, similar to what we just went through with Airtable. Once you've got those, when you go back to Airtable in the HTTP module, we want to plug those in so we can speak to this tool from N8N. So over here, what you want to do is set the method to post. The URL you want to use is this URL here. So just take a screenshot of that. It's the Organic Live Advanced one. So just copy that one right there and put that in. And then in the authentication, just leave everything as I've got it here. But you're going to need to set up a new credential here by going create new credential. And this is where you need to put in your details that you get from Data4SEO. They'll tell you exactly what to put in here and here if you read their API page. Once you've done that and click save, then you've connected that bridge. So do that step. Data4SEO has got incredible customer service if you get stuck. Once you've done that, slide down here and click headers, turn that on. And then the header parameters like this, put using fields below, go name, authorization, value, basic. And here, where I've got basic, you actually have a space. It's the word basic, then you have a space. And this is where you put your API key in here. Okay. That's all you need to do for that. API key goes in there. I've got it blank because I deleted mine. In the name field down here, put content type and then application JSON, just like I've got there. And then slide down and send body to on. Body content type JSON using JSON below. And then in the JSON field, this is what you're going to paste in here. So all you need to do if you want to get this information is on the Data4SEO, they'll actually show you how to create these JSON fields. So if I go back here, if you choose any of these endpoints here, they will tell you down below and give you a code example here of exactly how to structure the body in your HTTP. That's how you get that for all their different endpoints. For the one that we're using here, this is how you structure it like this. So just take a screenshot of that and then get ChatGPT to recreate that JSON exactly like this for you. But the key thing that you got to have here is in this keyword field, we have to map in the topic that we want the research done on. So the way we do that is on the Airtable module here, this questions row is pulled through. So I can drag that in there and map that in between those two quotes like that. And then on the right-hand side, this is actually what we're going to send to Data4SEO. This is what they see. They actually see this keyword, string of keywords. So they'll do a search on this and get a lot of valuable information back from a live search results page on Google for us. So once we've got that set up, we can search by that. So I can click test this step now. It's going to send this request to Data4SEO for us. Data4SEO is going to do a live search on Google, and it's going to pull a whole bunch of information back that then we can take what we want from it. There's a lot of information that comes back, and we're not going to need to use all of it. But here you can see I get a feed back, and it's really massive. So it's actually done a live Google search, and there's a whole bunch of content here that we can now use based on what Google thinks about this topic that we sent over. So that's what we're doing. Data4SEO doesn't just do live searches. They've got a database full of keywords as well. And I'll show you in a moment different requests that we're going to do to the same service to get different feedback on the same topic. This is just one way of getting research done. We can do this in multi-steps. So what I'm going to do is jump out of here. Then I'm going to add what's called an edit fields node and clean up the data that I got out of here. Okay, so in order to do that, you just go here and go edit like that. Go edit. This is a set field, edit, or edit field, they call it. Open this up. In here, I can automatically pull all this information from this result I got from Data4SEO, and I can just pull exactly what I want to get out of it. So what I did in this result here is I got all the titles of the organic search results here. And this is what I've done here. So all you do is add different fields here. You go add fields for this edit node, and you can just title them what you want. So I got all the titles. I got all the people also asked. So these are the questions that people ask. So you'll notice in a Google search result, if you go there and type in a certain keyword, Google will give you a list of typical questions that people tend to ask. This is all that's doing, is grabbing all the questions. So this is really handy when you're doing research because these questions are really valuable. It helps us understand what people really want to know that relates to this main topic that we're doing. We can also get results from discussion forums. People also search the URLs of the top pages that ranked. So not only the titles, but we can get their URLs. So all we need to do here is in each field, we set them all to expression, and then we just put this expression in like that, and you'll notice all of the titles for the organic search results are here for me, scraped instantly. So in order to do that, you just need to put this code in here. So what I'll do is underneath this video, I'm going to put all these codes for you, and then you can just copy and paste them as an expression in here to save you time and having to work out how to get this code to work. But you can see here, it speeds it up and it grabs all those results, scrapes them and organizes them for me. So I've got all the titles now of the organic results. Now, if I want to know all the questions that people ask, I can do exactly the same thing. It scrapes that massive data we got back and it organizes them into the questions. So I can see here, how do people get rid of menopause bloating? How do people get rid of menopause belly? What foods are good for menopause bloating? So this is really useful information when we're doing deep research. We want to know what other things people want to know if you want to cover a topic really well in a video or a blog post or social media. This is what people want to know. So this is really valuable. And Google does all this heavy lifting for us. And we can do the same thing in the discussion forums, more questions that people ask. And then if we go down, other types of searches that people do that are related. These are other searches that people do. Again, very valuable if you're doing deep research. And then here's the URLs of the top ranking websites, which we're going to scrape later in our automation. So far, we've got a lot of valuable information. We're going to click test step like this, and you're going to see all of this information is neatly packaged in here for us. And we're going to use this downstream and feed this into the AI. So let's keep moving. The next step here is we're going to add an AI module. And this is a ChatGPT module. So you need an account at OpenAI in order to connect these sorts of modules in N8N. So get yourself an account at OpenAI. You need to go to the OpenAI, your account page, to the API section and get your login details. You need your API key again for all these modules that you do when you're building automations. You need API credentials in order to connect. It's like connecting a bridge. So this module here is called a basic LLM chain, which is just an AI module. So if we go over to the right-hand side, if you just type in basic like that, basic LLM chain, this will pop up like this. And then we can actually put a prompt in here for ChatGPT to do something. Before we do that, though, I'm just going to go back a step. We need to add a brain to this module. So if you click off this model here, this is where we choose what service we want to run the operation. So we don't have to use ChatGPT. There's a lot of different options like Claude or DeepSeek or other things that we can add. I'm choosing ChatGPT to run this AI module. So here is where you connect your credentials. Like I said before, you need to get your API credentials and connect them up. And then you can choose from the drop-down menu which ChatGPT module that you want to run this operation. I'm just going to leave it at GPT 4.0, but you need to have that connected in order for this to work. Otherwise, it won't work. This structured output example is how we tell it what we want to output in this module. I'll get to that in a second, but first let me tell you what we're actually doing. If you open this up and you set that field to expression, in here, I've given it a particular task and I've said, you're an expert at organizing content. Here is a list of questions that users ask. Most of them could become individual blog posts. However, if you see two or more questions that are clearly overlapping or would be better answered together in a single article, you can group them. So what I'm telling it to do is format these questions that came in from this field in the prior module, which is the people also ask field. And I'm saying, look at all these questions and group them together so that they make sense. So when we're doing our deep research, we don't just want to throw a whole bunch of research at a writing AI and say, here's an information overload of all this content I scraped and from various places. Because a writing AI won't do a good job with that. You need to repackage what you find when you're doing deep research like this. So this step here, if you just copy what I've got in here, and you again just copy that expression like that, exactly how I've got it. I'll do after this video all the expressions I've used in the video. I'll put it in the description below for you, and you can just copy and paste them in. What it's doing is it's saying group these questions here into clusters. So if I just run this, it's taking all of these questions and it's grouping them together in a way that I can use downstream when I'm feeding this into an AI. So you can see here it's going to group all these questions together. So this one here, how do I get rid of menopause belly and how do I get rid of menopause belly? That one's just got the word my. It's the same question. Or how is my stomach so big during menopause? The AI realized these are really the same question. So there's no point in duplicating that question when we're trying to do research. So I've just told it to group them together where it makes more sense. And it did a really good job of doing that. So now that we've grouped the questions, we can tidy this up with a code node in here. So if I show you how to do a code node and show you what it's actually doing, is it's just tidying up the output here, and it's taken the questions from the previous node and it said this is the main question, and then I've said, okay, if there was any like duplicate questions, then put them as supporting questions, and it restructures the output for me. So in order to do this, again, all of the code that you need will be under the video. Just copy and paste the code I give you and put it into a code node module, and it will tidy it up for you like that. So to do a code module, all you got to do is click code like that, paste in the code that I've given you, and it will tidy those up. I've actually got a second code module in here. So if I run this module, and again, you'll get the code here. This is taking the URLs. So it's doing a different cleanup here, taking the URLs from that previous data that we had. So if you remember back here, we got the URLs out of here that we wanted to use. So I've just taken these URLs and put them in a tidier format that I'm going to feed further down in my automation. All you need to know to do this is just copy and paste. Just copy and paste the code that I give you and open a code node, and it will spit out exactly what you need. So now that we've done that first research phase, we can move on to the next phase. This might look complicated, but this is actually pretty straightforward. All we're doing here is different Data4SEO searches for keyword suggestions from Google, related keywords, and keywords for keywords. They're just different endpoints to get research from Data4SEO. Now, the good news is you can just duplicate these by going, you can go to your first Data4SEO module back here, and you can click duplicate, and then you don't have to recreate that whole step. All you're going to do is change the endpoint. So in this keywords one here, all I do is change the endpoint to this URL. So I'll put all these under the video for you, but that's the different URL that we're using here. All the other credentials stay the same, except this body down here will be slightly different because it's a different search result. So again, I'll put all of this under the video to save you time. But what you need to do here is you need to map in the keyword from the original Airtable request. So if I go right back on the left-hand side, you can see this original question that we had. You're going to map that into that keyword field like that. And all of these requests that we send over, you have to map that in because it doesn't know what it's searching for. So all this is doing another search based on this result. Now, this is quite a long tail keyword. So this might not be the best example to get more keywords because it's trying to find different suggestions, but it's already quite a long tail keyword. So it's probably not going to get us heaps. But it's got a seed keyword and it goes out and finds similar keywords that are related to it. So you can see it's finding other keywords. Some of them it's going to come back null and it's not found anything. Others it will. So how to reduce bloating. It's giving us other suggestions here of similar keywords that it found in the database that it had. So once you've done this, you can just add an edit field next to it, connect it to it, and then add the code that I give you below the video and paste it in, and it will just tidy that up for you and put it in a format that we can use downstream. So it only found one suggestion that was similar to it because it's already a really long tail keyword. So it's not the greatest example, but if you had a short tail keyword, it would have found a bunch of other related keywords. So all these other modules here are exactly the same, just a different endpoint and a different body in here, which I'll put below the video. And then again, it's just repeating and doing a different type of search at Data4SEO. This is for related keywords. So it's getting us all the related keywords to that main keyword. And again, we do an edit fields module, copy and paste the code that I give you, and then you click test as step. This is going to find keywords that are related. So here it's found a lot more related keywords. So this is useful when we pass this downstream to an AI. Not only are we finding questions that people ask, we're finding related keywords now. And we're starting to build out research around this topic to help the AI fully understand what people really want to know when it comes to this particular topic we put in. And again, the next one is just another Data4SEO. It's just a different endpoint that we use here. And I'll put it under the video, different body copy in here that we send over. And then if I do this search here, this is a keywords for keywords. It's just a different way of finding similar keywords. There's a lot of different ways you can do it in Data4SEO. They have a massive database. So once you've done all that, you can click test step by adding an edit module here, and it will tidy up the result and get what you want and package it neatly for you to use downstream. So you don't have to use all of these different requests. You could just use one of them. It depends on how detailed your research you want to do. All I'm showing you in here is you can use a lot of different endpoints from Data4SEO to get different results back when doing research. And then you just store them in these edit nodes, and then we can feed this into an AI at the next module. So if we move along here, all we're doing here is two more ChatGPT basic LLM chains. So we set those up before. So the same way you'd set them up, you would set them up here. Now, one step I realized I forgot to do, if I just pop back here, I mentioned I was going to show you how to do a structured output. So a structured output is forcing the AI to output the information in a way that you want to use. So if we open this up, if you set that required structured output format and slide that to on, you then can give it a structure and say you must output in this structure. Then you give it the example structure that you want to output in. So you can see how I've structured it. So I'm going to get back exactly how I've structured that. So that's a really important step when using these LLM chains. So you get usable information that's much easier to use in automations. So we're going to do that in this step here. So this is just another AI module that we're doing with ChatGPT, but in here, the prompt is just slightly different. So again, this will all be under the video to make it easier for you. But all I'm doing in this step is I'm saying, write a detailed and highly specific summary from the research that you found below. So I'm feeding it in all of this information that we got from all these edit fields, everything so far, I'm feeding it into the AI. And I'm giving it a structured example, which I give here and in the structured example. And I'm telling it, take all of this information we found so far and start to process and make sense of it and organize it for me. So that's all this step is doing. So again, just copy and paste it. And then all you need to do is click test step. And then it's going to take all this information so far and it's going to start processing it into something more useful that we can use. So while that's running, oh, here's it back here. So it's taken all of that information and it's distilled it down into the key points that we need to focus on. So if we're writing a piece of content, this has looked at all of that information that we've given it, and it said, these are the key things that you really need to zero in on your research. It's these 12 key points. The reason we add this step in is if you're writing a blog post or a video, you need to know how to structure it into the sections. So these become the sections that you need to talk about. And it's reached this conclusion by feeding it a whole bunch of research that we've scraped and found from different tools. So you need to add a structured output example for it here, and you just give it the output that you wanted. I did it I just wanted the key points to cover. I wanted it in a list like this. So I wanted it to take all that research and distill it down to the 12 or 15 or whatever it thinks are the main things I have to talk about in this content in order to cover it well. So once you've done that step, we can then add another LLM chain here. And this is the search intent one. So what I do in this module here, it's quite simple. Just copy this, and again, all under the video for you, is you're an SEO expert helping to determine search intent and content information expectations. So I'm just saying to it, if somebody was to type in this keyword, I want you to tell me, what is the search intent? What are they actually thinking? And what is the content that they're expecting? Because when we train an AI to write for us, not only do we want to give it the research that we found and tell it these are the sections and this is the research, we also want to get it to understand what that research needs to be written, what sort of style to match the intent that the user has. So by giving it a simple prompt like this and run it, it will tell me, okay, based on that, this is the type of content that you really want to be creating. So it gives us that sort of sentiment. So this is the output that it gives us. By doing that, I can park this up now in an edit field module. So the next module I add is called an edit fields. And in here, I can run the output from a previous module. So actually, no, this module is not editing these two modules. We're just going to leave those sitting in here, the outputs, and we're going to grab those later. But this module here is actually referencing the code node further back, which I'm going to run. I'll show you what it's going to do. And it's just grabbing the URLs that we had earlier that we scraped from the top results in Google, and it's reformatting them in a way that I can pass into the next module that I want to do. This will make sense in just a second, but all you need to know is create an edit modules field, an edit field here. And in here, you're just going to take this code here and it's going to run it and it's going to output those URLs in a comma separated string. And the reasons for that is the next way we're going to use these needs it in this format. So by doing that, if I go to the next format over here, I'm going to add a code node and I'm going to clean up those URLs here into this structure. So this is kind of a multi-step way of cleaning up the data so I can use it in the next AI module. So again, just copy exactly what I've got here. But what we're actually doing here is we want to go to the web pages that were the top 3 results on Google, and we actually want to scrape all their content. And then we're going to pass what they wrote about into the next AI here and get the AI to read what the top ranking results in Google got. So the easiest and cleanest way to do this is to use a tool called Jina. So Jina is an AI tool that allows you to get content from any web page. So I'll just show you in action what Jina does. So if I just take like this URL here, if I go to this Jina tool here, I can go to Jina AI like this, and I'll show you what it does so you can see why it's so useful when you're doing AI automations. So if you go to, I'll go to their API page here. All you have to do is you put an r.jina like this. So if I'll just take the URL here of the example they give me like this. If you go up into a browser module like this, r.jina, and then I'll come back to this in a second. Let's just grab one of the URLs that we're actually working with. If I just take this one, if I go back and do a live search result and actually just paste that in like that and click enter, Jina is going to get the markdown. That's going to scrape all the content off that page and organize it really neatly for me like this in markdown format. See how clean that is? So all the content on this web page is tidied up. All the HTML and useless stuff we don't want is cleaned out. Then we can feed that into an AI to read. The LLM, like ChatGPT, can read that much more clean. We can also adjust the formatting in Jina to remove other things that we don't want. But this is a clean scrape of this website that now we can feed into ChatGPT. So this is all we're doing in this step. Is adding a Jina module, which will get a clean markdown format of a web page that we can feed into ChatGPT. So if I go back to the automation that we're working on, in order to do the module for Jina, it's an HTTP request to their AI. So you need to go and get an account at Jina, and you can get a free account to do this at Jina. Go to their API documents, and again, it's the same thing, get an HTTP request module here. And then you need to fill in your credentials. I'm not going to go through how to do it, but you just go in here and go create new credentials. And then it's a post method. The URL is r.jina.ai like this. And then in the headers, you want to make sure that it's set exactly as I've got on screen like that. Just copy what I've got. In the send body request, have it to JSON and then using the fields below. In the name, it's actually instruction in the name field. And in the value field here, it's actually this like that. Okay, so just either take a screenshot or I'll put this under the video for you. But this is what you need to put in the value field like that. This is how we can control Jina and tell it, we want markdown format. We want you to get rid of any, exclude advertisement, navigation menus, sidebars, promotional sections. You can actually tweak Jina and tell it what you don't want and what you do want. So that's how you can fine tune Jina to get a clean page scrape. And in the URL name here, I put URL. And then in the value here that I map in, this is where that code node that we just did gives us a clean value. I can just drag and drop right in there, set to expression. By doing that, it's going to automatically do what I just did manually, but it's going to do it in our automation and get a scrape of that web page. So I can just test Jina now, and it's going to go and get that web page, whatever this one here is, and it's going to get a clean scrape. And there's the clean scrape for us of that web page. Now, remember, this web page was one of the top ranking web pages in Google for the original keyword that we had. So now this information's pretty valuable because Google thought it was good enough to rank on the top 3 organic results. So they obviously know what they're talking about on this particular topic. So what we're doing here is we're feeding this in 3 times into another AI module. So if you add another LLM chain here and do the same setup as we've done before, and all we're doing here on this prompt here, which again, I'll give you under the video, is you just basically telling it, write a detailed and highly specific summary from the website scrape. So it's saying, take these website scrapes and I want you to summarize them for me. So that's all this is doing. If I click test step here, what you'll see is it gives me a clean summary of the page so we can feed that into an AI, and the AI knows exactly what these top results talked about when they were doing it. So ChatGPT is going to do 3 pages here. That's why this is taking a little bit longer, because it's iterating through 3 pages. Because what we're doing in here, you'll notice here, if you look closely, there's a 3 here. This is actually iterating. So in N8N, if you have 3 inputs coming in, it automatically knows one by one that you want to iterate through these. Okay, so that's an important thing to understand with N8N. And the way you might be wondering why I restructured this code node and these URLs and all that. You might think it was overkill what I was doing earlier, but there was a reason for that. I was getting it into a structure that will automatically iterate through when I pass it into these LLM chains like this. So if you're not familiar with iteration and stuff with automation, then you will the more you do it. But basically, if it wasn't in this structure that I had here, it wouldn't have iterated. Okay, by formulating these URLs like this, it's in a way that when I pass that first one into here, it's going to iterate through and grab 1, 2, 3, depending on how many I had here. But I had to restructure that in order for that to happen. Okay, so hopefully that's not too advanced and hard for you guys to understand. I'm sure you'll get it. But here you can see the results. I've got 3 results. So it's iterated and done all 3. And here it's given me the key points to cover. So now I have a summary of all of the 3 top web pages in Google and what they talked about on the topic. So as you can see, as we're progressing through this automation, we're doing multiple steps of research. So we did our own scrapes of the web pages on the top page of Google. We sent requests to Data4SEO and got all the keywords and questions that people ask. And in each step, we summarize and boil them down because we want to condense the research as we go along when you're doing multi-step deep research. So it might sound a little bit overwhelming if you haven't done anything like this before, but if you can push through and get your head around this, you will stand out as like the 1% of people doing content creation with AI automation. I can guarantee you that, because most people don't bother to do this. They find it too hard, too complex, and they're lazy. So the next thing that we want to do, and this is kind of the last form of research we do, and then this automation is finished, is we're going to call a Perplexity AI module and get Perplexity to do a deep research for us. So if you haven't used Perplexity, it's a different type of AI here. So if you go to Perplexity and get an account and go to their API section over on the left and you add a little bit of credit to your account, then you can use their API service. So Perplexity goes out to the web and it does deep research. It's not like a Google research. It's a different form of deep research. And it actually does a really, really good job. So what we're doing here is we're using Perplexity to do a search in a different way on the same topic. So if we just recap, what we've done so far is we've used Data4SEO, we've used Google, and now we're using Perplexity to do multiple ways of finding content around this main topic that we're looking at. So once you've got an account over at Perplexity, get your API credentials and then come back. And in here, when you set up, sorry, this isn't the Perplexity module, I've jumped ahead. This is the Perplexity module here. So I'll show you what this is in just a second. So once you've got your details, you need to set up an HTTP request module here. And then again, you fill in all your credentials just like you would in any other service. And then we can query Perplexity. So in order to do that, you want to set this to post. The URL the endpoint that we're using here is the chat completions endpoint like this. Okay. Everything else just copy as I've got it here. And the header authentication, this is where you need to create new credentials and put in the details that you got from your API at Perplexity. If I hop out of there, if you go down below, the send body is turned to on. We have JSON and then using the JSON below. And this is how we structure when we're querying Perplexity. So you can just leave everything by default, or you can tweak this if you want. But the main thing that you need to pay attention to is this content field. You'll notice this is a mappable field. So this is where we prompt Perplexity, just like you'd prompt ChatGPT. You have to prompt Perplexity, but we prompt it in a slightly different way. So the way we do this is we get a prior module, which I'm going to go back to now and show you. We get ChatGPT to create a prompt for Perplexity. So we get AI to prompt AI. So this is where you can get into some really advanced stuff. So if I hop out of here, I go back one module and I'm going to add another LLM chain here, which is it's actually just a copycat of this one exactly. So you can just duplicate. What we want to do in this LLM chain, which is a ChatGPT module, is we tell it, you need to create a prompt for Perplexity that is relating to this topic that we're doing research on. So we say, write a prompt for an AI tool called Perplexity that can do deep research on this main topic here. And then we map in the original keyword that we're doing the search on from Airtable. And then we give it an example of a prompt that we want, how detailed we want to go. Now, you can actually alter this prompt if you want to get a better result on something that I haven't updated yet, but I'll just show you quickly how to do it. A better way to actually do this prompt for Perplexity is if you go to the AI, let me just go over to their preferences, my account, documentation. How do I actually get over there? Yeah, if we go over their documentation here, if you go over to API references here, they'll actually show you how to prompt their own tools here. So if you go to the, okay, here it is here. It was under prompt guide. I couldn't find it. In here, they actually give really great examples on how to prompt their own tool. So what I've done yesterday when I was playing around with this, and I haven't got around to doing it for this automation, but you could, is just copy their examples like this, because they say this is a good example, this is a bad example. They give you really great examples in here of how to prompt their own tool. So copy all of those, take that back in here, and that becomes your prompt in here. This is how you train it. So you can actually get rid of this example here and just give it the examples that they give in their own tool and how to prompt. And then ChatGPT will create a really, really excellent prompt. So that's what I'll be changing on this. So that would be best practice for you to do here. You just have to make sure that you map in the actual keyword so ChatGPT knows what sort of prompt that we want to create. So once you do this step here, we have to then slide this to, we want a structured output example, and we need to give it an example. It's just a pretty basic example. It's just like that. That's all we're telling it. Perplexity prompt. That's how we want you to give it to us. So by doing that, it's going to go, okay, cool. I know what you want. Here, I'll give you a prompt for Perplexity that you can use. So this is going to happen automatically. So it will create a really excellent prompt that we can pass on to Perplexity. So this is quite a long prompt. If you'd actually done what I said before and changed that, I don't think you would have got such a long prompt in here, but that'll still work. But you'd be better off to do what I just said here and go and copy how they told you to prompt it. Once you've done that anyway, the output can then be mapped in to the body of the Perplexity module here. We can take this prompt and we can just drop it in here like that. I'm not going to drop it in there twice. But you can see in the content field, I can drop that prompt. So now we've automatically got a prompt in our automation that will prompt Perplexity. So I can just click test this step. Perplexity's now got that prompt for this topic, and it's going out and doing deep research for us. And then when that content comes back from Perplexity, we can then package that up just like we've packaged up all the rest of the stuff so far in this automation. So that'll take a couple of seconds to come back, or probably a minute to come back, because it actually does really good deep research. It's not just going to give us an answer in a second. So here it comes back here. So you can see it's actually got proper research citations that we can use. So when we're writing content that needs to be referenced, we've got good references here. And here's all of the content that it tells us about this topic that we're looking at. And this is some really excellent research that we can pass on to a writing LLM. So this is really another great way to get content. So what we do in this next module here, and then we're almost done on this automation, we add another edit fields node here. And I'm just tidying up and extracting what I want. I don't want all of the information that came back from that. There's a lot of information in here. I don't need it all. So all I do is create a field and call it Perplexity output in this edit node. And in the expression box, all I need to do is just put this exactly as you see here and map that output here, which is the choices output, the message content like that. It's just coming from the message content. Now, I could take more things. Like I could take the citations if I wanted to take the citations as well. It really depends on what you want to pull out of that, but I don't want this video to be too long, but I could have taken all the citations as well. If you scroll down, now you can see all these citations are taken as well if I wanted the citations, but I'm not going to do that for now, but you would if you were doing a content research that needed references like scientific stuff. But if I just map that field in like that, you can see here's all the research that it found. This is just the content piece that I want. I don't want all the other stuff it found. I just want to get straight to the point. And you can see it organizes it for me. Point 1, point 2, point 3, point 4, point 5, point 6, point 7, point 8, point 9, 10. So it's got 10 really important pieces of information that relate to the topic that we want. So that's all stored for us now in this edit module. So if I just run that module like this, it's going to grab all of that. There it is. Now I've parked up information in a lot of different places in this automation, and I'm going to feed it into a final ChatGPT module and say, take all of this input and packages up and give us a summary format that I can pass on to an AI writer. So this is how we do it. We do another AI module, which is a ChatGPT module. And in here, we're prompting it and we're passing in all of this research from prior modules. So you can see all these mappable fields. This is where we pass it with the prompt into the final AI to take everything we've done so far and create a final output. So the way we do that is we say analyze the research for a health and wellness. I put blog. This could be depends on what you're researching for on this topic. And then we prompt it on what we want to do and how we want it to output. So this prompt can change depending on what you want to achieve. So I'm not going to read through all of that, but you get the idea as you can pause the video and read that if you want to. And then we pass in all of the mappable fields that we've done previously in this automation. So you can hear I've given it the search intent. So that came from the search intent module. So if you scroll back, on N8N on the left-hand side, all those modules that you grabbed and parked in different places, we can now map all of that stuff. So this is what we do. I'm going to close all of that up, and you can see all the different stuff that we've done so far, right back to the beginning of the webhook. So this is a summary of what we've achieved so far in all of this research, and now we're passing it all through. So that search intent analysis, if you look and find it, it came from here, the search intent. You can see it came from here, and I just mapped that in like that, close it up, and then I can then say, here's all the rest of the research. So if you look down here, I've got the Perplexity output. So that would be mapped from this Perplexity module up here, the edit fields. I map and drag that in, and that gives me all the summary of the Perplexity. I've given it the web scraped research. I've just split this out so it's a little bit easier for you guys to see. When I scrape those web pages from Jina, what I've done here is we parked up those Jina results and we put them in a web page summary. So we summarized those results here. But what I've done here is added a little bit of extra code, and I've stitched all those results together and I've flattened them out into 3 summaries for the final AI. So instead of like feeding one by one into this AI, I'm just giving them all in one hit. So the way you do that is if you look at the code, this is how I've altered it in order to do that. So if I scroll down, you can see this is what it does. So if I look here and go, if you scroll down past the Perplexity research, you can see here is the web page scrapes that I've done. So all it's doing is it's stitching those summaries together here like this, and it's flattening them all out and saying, here's a summary of 3 of the top pages that ranked in Google, and we've summarized them for you here. So the AI has a really good idea of how to write content. So that's the web scrapes that are summarized and packaged up into here for it. And then the next ones that we've passed in are things like the earlier stuff that we did right at the beginning. If we went right back to those edit fields that we did way back in the beginning of this automation, we had things like people also ask, people also search, keywords, and we're mapping all of these things in here. So if you remember, we did those things and we parked them all up in these edit nodes, these edit field nodes. So the first edit field node back here was where we had stuff like people also ask. This is all the questions. So I've mapped in those questions. So you can just map in anything that you want that you parked up earlier in the automation. And this is where you start feeding it into the final AI to do a summary and create a plan now for us to write from. So if you look down below here, you'll see all of these things are just mapped in and then they show up on the right. So this is all the research now being passed into an AI with instructions on exactly how we want to output that research so we can pass it on to the writer. So we give it a structured output. We slide that to a structured output. And then if we look at how we're asking it to output, I'm just saying I want it in a JSON format. Now, what I've done here is I've actually said to give it to me in HTML. Now, you wouldn't need to do that. The reason I've done that is so it's easier for me to show you the output in this video in HTML when I did it in an HTML viewer. But you would just say, just output this in JSON format or whatever format. You might want it in HTML format, and you can copy what I've got here as this example, which I'll give to you. But that's how I've structured, and I've told it how I want to output it. So once I've done that, I just click test step, and now it's taking all of this information that we've done in this automation, and it's looking at it and organizing it and preparing it for a content writing AI to then take and write from. So you got to remember what we've done here is a lot of different ways to deep research a topic that we've got no clue about before. So this was about menopause bloating, a topic that I know zero about, and it's given me deep research like I'm an expert on it. So here is the output that it's given me. So if I was to copy this output here, I can actually clean that up and sometimes I notice with ChatGPT, it gives these markdown annoying characters in the output. So you can just add a code note at the end and tell it to clean up that output. So that's all I did here is I just asked ChatGPT to write some code for me to clean up all that unwanted characters to get clean HTML. That's all that is. If I test that, it's just taking the output that we just had and just cleaning it. That's all this is doing here. Then I get clean HTML here. So again, you don't need to know how to code to do that. But if I just copy the output there and I go to a live HTML viewer, which is here, and I just get rid of all that, that's how we're going to get to our summary. Whoops, that didn't work. So if I just take that like this, paste that in here, now I've got a blog post plan and it's mapped out exactly all the sections and what to write about for a writer. So this is how you can get a really good understanding of how to cover a topic. So it's given us a target reader, the search intent, the objective, the tone and authority. These are the topics that we need to cover. This is what you need to write about in this section, and it maps out exactly what you need to write about. Now, we can get more detailed in this summary if we want to, but the key thing that you want to do when you're doing writing automation from this is you actually want the AI writer to do its own research section by section. So you're telling it, this is what you need to focus on. Now, this is just a quick example. You could give a lot more detail here. I just put this together reasonably quickly to give an example. You could go into a lot more depth and say, you need to do this, this, and this. But this is all the research that it's done for a writing LLM to then go out and write this content. So it knows exactly what people want to know about this topic. And the reason it does is because all the different ways that it's been researched. So let's just recap what we've done in this automation and how you could use this in a lot of different ways. So if we zoom out, what we're doing here is we're starting with Airtable and a topic we know nothing about. And we're using DataforSEO to do live Google searches and different searches within its database to get us more information about that main topic. We then organize this using AI models here and here and here. And we park stuff up that we can use way later at the end, which I just showed you in these edit modules. We just store them and park them in these modules to map down later. So that's the first phase of what we did. And then in here, we use a service called Jina to get the URLs for the top ranked websites in Google, scrape them and process them and summarize them. So that's what we did in this step here. And the way we got those URLs was from this DataforSEO module way back here. It actually got the top ranking websites in Google for us. And then what we did is we got a Perplexity module to do a third type of search for us on the same thing. So we've really done 3 different ways of attacking a piece of content. And then we passed this into an AI and said, summarize all of that for us and package it up into a content plan. So that's how you do deep research with multi-stepping with different ways if you want to be able to become an expert on a topic that you know nothing about. Now, this could be adapted for social media, blog posts, YouTube, anything you like, and you can chop and change this to fit whatever your needs are depending on the research that you're doing. So I hope you found this video helpful. If you did, do me a huge favor, leave a comment below, hit subscribe and like, and I'll see you in the next video.